Okay, we're going to start in on the material for Chapter 8, which focuses on water. We're going to look at several aspects of water. In this first lecture, Lecture 8A, we're going to look at where water is located on Earth, how we use water, and then look at potable water worldwide. So if we look at the water on the surface of the Earth, the majority of it is in the oceans, or saline water. This is not water that is fit for consumption. We need fresh water. Only 3% of the water on Earth is fresh water. And a majority of this is located in ice caps and glaciers. So almost 70% of the fresh water is in ice caps and glaciers. The remaining is groundwater and surface water, with the majority of that being groundwater. Of surface water, we find this in lakes, swamps, and rivers. So only a small portion of the water that we have on the earth is in a form that we can use. And we use a lot of water. So over 355 billion gallons of water is used a day in the US. This graph here shows the estimated use of water in the United States in 2010, the last year being 2010, so it shows water use over time. The line is the total with withdrawal in billions of gallons per day. So you can see that we are at about 355 billion gallons a day. This water that we use is not, the majority of that is not for direct consumption. A lot of it goes into irrigation for the crops that we grow, which is the green bars, and then the yellow-orange bars, which is for the generation of power. So when we talk about water, we often talk about potable water. And potable water is the water that is safe to drink and cook with. On the reverse side, non-potable water is not fit for consumption. It is still useful. It can be used for things such as power generation and hydropower plants, in manufacturing processes, but you can't consume this water because there's either bacteria in it that is harmful or other toxic material. Only about 10% of the water that we use is for domestic use, so the water coming into our house for bathing and cooking, drinking. 20% is industrial use and 70% is agriculture. And these numbers vary from country to country. In the US, average US citizen uses 100 gallons of water a day, or 390 liters. So we use a lot of water. Obviously, you're not drinking this amount of water, and this isn't even just going into things such as bathing. Water is used in a lot of different products, and so we can look at a water footprint, which is the estimate of the amount of water required to sustain the consumption of goods and services. So when we look at our water footprint, we're looking at how much water goes into the food that we grow. So in order to grow 1 kilogram of corn, it requires over 1,000 liters of water. Then if we look at something such as raising beef, beef requires a lot of grain for their consumption. So a lot of water goes into the food that the cows eat. So in order to raise 1 kilogram of beef for consumption, over 15,000 gallons of water is used. So everything that we do has some water footprint. A cup of coffee, 260 liters. Even a cotton t-shirt, we grow that cotton to produce that shirt, over 2,000 liters of water. So we use a lot of water. We talked about the concept of potable water. This is not something that we think about on a daily basis in the US. This is a map of the world showing what percentage of drinking water is potable. In the US, over 90% of our water is potable. The water coming into households, 90% of people have water that they can safely drink. Similar percentages in Western Europe, but you have areas of the country that a large amount of the water that is accessible by the population is not potable. So Africa obviously jumps out in this graph. The colors here show that there are areas in which under 30% of the population has potable water to drink. So while in the US it's not something that we think about on a daily basis, in the developing world, this is a major issue. Let's see.